What is it going to take for Arizona to usurp Kansas as the top dog in the Big 12? Because when you look at Kansas, they do a lot of things that are just really, really well. I mean, you've got first of all, I think Bill Self is probably the best. I think he's probably the best roster constructor in all of college basketball, and that he always has the pieces always seem to fit. And he's a very savvy recruiter. He doesn't always just rely on the 4-star kids. He brings in sometimes 2 and 3-star kids that turn into absolute All-Americans. Your Frank Masons, your Devontae Grahams, players like that. He's a great developer of talent. What does Arizona need to do to be able to catch and then usurp Kansas?
Yeah, and it's really tough because let's say Kansas has an off year like they did last year. Bill Self goes to the NIL people and says, look, I need a lot of money, and he gets it within, 5 minutes, like you did this year with Store and Mayo and all that. It's tough, man. Like, it's just I think they got to do it right away. Like, I think they got to, this year they got to beat Kansas.
They got to go into Fog Allen and beat them.
Yeah, like they got to send a message like we're here, right? And if they don't do that, if they go into Fog Allen and get killed, Kansas is going to be telling people about that. I think that Arizona needs to finish very strong in the Big 12 right away to kind of announce like, hey, we're here. We're going to stay here. Kansas is good. We're not stupid, but we're going to be right there with them.
I think the other thing that's very, very important for Arizona in this is that some of the things that I think you could get away with in the Big 12 or the Pac-12, you can't get away in the Big 12. There's a couple things. Like I said, I always have to preface this by saying I hope Tommy Lloyd's here for 500 years. But there's a couple things that I think you really need to keep in mind. I don't think you can get away with playing favorites in the Big 12. I think with and I'll use Kylan Boswell as an example. I don't think having a player who you don't know exactly where he's at in any given game, physically or mentally, you can't just go into each game saying, no matter what, we're going to give you 20 minutes per game. I don't think that that's going to work in the Big 12. I really don't.
No, it's not. And my biggest criticism of Tommy is that he hasn't been tough enough on players at times. And, you take a look at the best teams in the country and they'll bench you in a heartbeat, right? Like you gotta succeed. They'll love you, but they'll bench you at the same time. And I think Tommy it's all about winning. It's a winning business.
Because here's the thing.
Tommy needs to realize.
Here's what I would ask. Outside of his odd fake hair, I would ask myself, what would Bill Self do? Bill Self's not telling a player like Boswell, yeah, you're going to play 20 minutes per game no matter what you do. You got to be able to earn it. You've got to be able to be out there. The other thing too, and again, we're talking about things, I don't think that and he's doing a much better job of this, but I don't think that you can put roster filler in there just to be nice. I don't think you can have 3 international guys that aren't going to ever be able to play for you. That to me is also something. I think you've got to have a roster of players that at some point down the line, they're going to be able to be good for you.
Yeah. And I think he's doing a better job, but at the same time, we look and there's still a couple guys, that are, there's still a couple guys that are on the roster that are roster filler. I mean, let's just be honest. We know who they are.
They are.
And that's the one thing I'll give Tommy credit, not the one thing, but one of the things I'll give Tommy credit is he adjusts. He sees the situation and he adjusts to it. So I think if he goes in this first year in the Big 12 and realizes the roster filler type of stuff isn't going to work, he'll adjust to it.
Right. And I think up front, this is where I very much like getting Tobe Awaka. I think players like Tobe Awaka are built for the Big 12. I don't know. And again, I think that Mount Crevis is going to be very good. But Mount Crevis, I still have some question marks about. I do have about Tobe Awaka as well. But Awaka at that 6'8", 245, doesn't he very much have a feel of a Houston Baylor type big man skier?
Yeah, he feels exactly like a Houston power forward would look, like a Juwan Roberts type. Where to look, he's not going to be the biggest guy, but he's going to go out there. He's going to battle. Juwan Roberts is 6'7", 240.
Right.
You're not pushing him around, and he'll foul the crap out of you if he needs to and send a message.
I'm also very enthused about I think the physicality, and I agree with you. I think that Arizona doesn't necessarily need to beat Kansas, but they need to go in there and they need to play them very, very tough. And they need to be able to announce their arrival that they are clearly one of the handful of best teams in the conference. You can't finish 7th or something like that. You've got to come in right away. You've got a really good roster. You got Bradley, you got Lewis, you got Love. You've got a roster that is ready to rock and roll right now.
Yeah.
And And you mentioned NIL as well. Arizona, to me, can get the players that it needs to be able to get. I don't think that it's, there's some of the shortcomings that maybe you would have with football. But again, I think roster construction is going to be very big. And that's where I just come back to the can't have roster filler as much. Here's where I'm at with this. And this is the best way that I can put it. We can't continue to have debates about who's going to score more career points, Philly B or Conrad Martinez. As fun as they are, we can't continue to have those debates.